As always, we got a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. If I had to give it a big idea title for today's show, and many thanks for Brian and Steve delivering an audience to us from 6 to 9. Everybody's got to listen to those guys, our dear friends. The big idea today is that if you add Black Lives Matter, a Marxist movement, add them to a bunch of useful idiots, and you have a formula for destroying the United States of America starting on November 4th. In fact, there could even be problems. Not there could even be problems. There will be problems on November 4th when Donald Trump wins in a landslide in this country. It doesn't matter if he wins every state, every electoral vote. The left, the Trump derangement syndrome will manifest itself on the 4th because of the hatred for the individual, Donald Trump, but more importantly, and don't miss this, because of the hatred of the Republican policies, pro-life, marriages between a man and a woman, the integrity of the family, the necessity of choice in choosing a school, in the sovereignty of nation by having a firm hand with enemies, but not engaging in nonsensical wars. And because of this individual following these policies, a tremendous amount of hatred has generated in the United States of America. We see that all over the place. But you gotta laugh. And you got to believe there is a God, because the left and their media machine with MS-13, NBC, and even the networks have gone over to the dark side, not reporting on anything positive, but reporting on anything they perceive or create or make up as being negative. You got to laugh, and you got to believe in God, how every once in a while, like every day almost, something occurs that blows the circuits in the heads of the leftists on both coasts and the leftists rioting in cities all over the place. Like 3 hours ago, a Norwegian official who's part of the Nobel Prize Committee nominated Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, that is absurd in the minds of the leftists. How could this guy? But the Nobel Prize committeeman, an official in Norway, he said, look, I don't care about the guy's personality. I don't care whether you like him or not. The Nobel Prize is geared toward results that follow through with more peace worldwide. And the nomination was because of Donald Trump's involvement in, leadership in, and direction of a relationship between the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and the nation of Israel. Any of you who have been to the Middle East, and we're going back next May, you can come with the United West on our national security mission. We go every year. Any of you have been there and understand the dynamics of the chaotic Middle East. To have the UAE, United Arab Emirates, which is one of the leading, more sophisticated, more advanced Arab countries, to have them enter into a peace deal, notwithstanding all the antipathy and all the vitriol and anger from other Arab nations, but to do it and have Donald Trump in the middle of it. And next week, you want to see leftist heads explode? You want to see Marxists in a fetal position? Next week at the White House, the UAE and Israel will join together at the White House and sign a historic document that's going to lead other nations, other Arab nations, to follow suit and establish some sort of agreeable peace like Israel's had for over 30 years with Egypt and Jordan. This is an amazing accomplishment. You will not hear one laudatory word from any mainstream media outlet, but you'll hear it here. And on today's show, we're going to speak to a couple of experts. We have coming up in a little bit Laura Loomer, who is the Republican nominee for Congress in the 21st District, right here where we are, right where President Trump lives. We're going to ask her about the Nobel Peace Prize Middle East. She knows the Middle East extremely well. She's been there with us many times. She understands world affairs. Then a little later, we have Lieutenant Steve Rogers, who works with the Trump campaign. He's a national security expert, a retired lieutenant commander with the Naval Intelligence, and a retired lieutenant with the police department in my home state of New Jersey. We're going to talk to him about that. And then later on, we have Siggy Flicker, an Israeli-American who was a reality star, Housewives of New Jersey. She'll be on. Brilliant lady, the leader and spokesperson of the Jexit movement, Jews exiting the Democrat Party. And then toward the end of the show, we have Jessee Jane Duff, friend of ours. She works with the Trump campaign, heading up Women for Trump and Veterans for Trump. She's working on both of those coalitions within Trump campaign. What a show we have for you today. We're excited. We're glad to be back. Hey, folks, we are here because of the generosity of our listeners and our viewers, our donors. And please go to our website, The United West. We need $5 donations, $25 donations, $1,000 donations. We're trying to raise a $100,000 budget to get us through the end of the year, get us at 100%, get some better equipment here, get some people here to increase our work. So we need your help. TheUnitedWest.org. Hit the donation button, and you'll be doing yourself, us, and your great country of America a favor. Yes. We have Laura right at 9:10. Laura Loomer, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I just did a little open talking about the Marxist heads exploding because Donald Trump has been nominated for a Nobel Prize. What do you think of that? You've been in the Middle East many times. What do you think, Laura?
Well, I think it's fabulous. Congratulations to President Trump. And, it's twofold, the reason why they're triggered, right? They're triggered because it has to do with peace between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. And as you know, these Marxist jihadists, supporting Israel is not a part of their game plan. They want to obliterate Israel. It's why they support BDS efforts. And out of all of the countries in the Middle East, right, the United Arab Emirates has shown favor towards Israel. They've taken a hardline stance against the Muslim Brotherhood and, the global Ikhwan, as they refer to it there. And that's just something that is completely contrary to the narrative and the goals of the Marxist jihadists and the progressive movement, which has aligned itself with the Muslim Brotherhood and taken an anti-Zionist, anti-Israel stance. So this is great. It's great. And finally, it's really refreshing to have a president who actually deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, because I don't really understand what Barack Hussein Obama did to receive his Peace Prize besides, arm the Iranians with pallets of cash, alienate Israel, allow for the Muslim Brotherhood to infiltrate America, orchestrating prisoner swaps with the Taliban. And then don't forget the global world apology tour to Islamic dictators and communist nations, apologizing for the greatness of the United States. So it's an award that you're supposed to earn. It's prestigious, and Donald Trump is bringing prestige and honor back to our country and to the Nobel Peace Prize.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got to draw attention to this. We did not rehearse. Laura had no idea what question I was going to ask her this morning. And in a minute and a half, she just schooled Lois Frankel, who has no idea what Laura just spoke about. Laura just briefed, basically, our audience, our viewers and our listeners on Middle Eastern affairs, the geopolitics involved, the ramifications of this development. And she's running against a woman who is lazy lying Lois, who hides out in her basement. And Laura, are you going to be debating Lois at any point? Is that ever going to happen?
We'll see. Who knows? I'd love to debate Lois Frankel, but the issue is that the Democrats, all the way up to Joe Biden, have set the precedent this election cycle that they're not going to debate. So I think that lazy Lois is hiding with Biden in the basement because, let alone a campaign. I haven't seen the woman. I don't know where she is. Every time she gives any type of talk or any type of announcement, it appears like she's sitting in her kitchen, on FaceTime.
and you're out all over the place. Well, look, we're going to try to stop in with you every day. We got Lieutenant Steve Rogers coming up here in a minute. We're going to stop in, check in with you every day, see what's going on. I got to let you go right now. Thank you for Loomer, and God bless your work, and you're an amazing individual. But have a great day. Anything breaking,
Thank
give us a
you.
call, and we'll get it on quickly. But right now, we're going to go to Steve Rogers. Lieutenant Steve Rogers, are you there?
Yes, I am. Pleasure to be with you this morning.
Hey, my pleasure. Are you a Jersey guy, I hear? What's going on?
Well, the real story is I'm a Brooklyn boy. I was born and raised in a poor section of Brooklyn back in the 50s, and then we moved to Jersey when I was a teen.
All right. Where'd you live? What, in Nutley? Were you in Nutley, New Jersey?
Yeah, resident of Nutley, New Jersey.
All right. I grew up, I was born and raised in a place called Newark, New Jersey. Ever hear of that?
Oh, yeah, good old Newark. You remember the days of Tony Imperielli? Do you remember those days?
I know nothing. I know nothing about Tony or the Boyardos or any of those guys. I know nothing.
Pretty nice and safe back then, I would say.
If you were a Sicilian living in North Newark in those days, it was a different world. It was very safe, extremely safe, very interesting time to roll around. And ironically, a lot of my I was headed into the FBI. I did a degree in law enforcement, and I wanted to enforce the law. Then in college, ran into Jesus Christ in a Bible study, argued for 3 months and lost the argument, became a born-again Christian, went into the ministry, basically. But all my desperado friends in those days in trouble all turned out to become police officers, FBI agents, all of this. You went into law enforcement, didn't you?
Yeah. In fact, 38 years, I retired as a detective lieutenant. And I also went into the Navy at the same time and retired as a lieutenant commander. Worked with the Office of Naval Intelligence my entire career, and eventually finished my career at the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Beautiful. So you're a lieutenant.
Yeah. And one of the highlights of my career, I know this would interest you, is that the New Jersey Attorney General had sent me to Israel to speak and to instruct Israeli National Police commanders in the subject of community policing and police community relations back in the early 90s.
Beautiful. We go every year. We lead a national security tour and have subject matter experts with us, Claire Lopez, John Guandolo, all these people. You got to come with us next May. Phenomenal 2-week mission. We deal with the military, intelligence, local law enforcement, political people. It's wonderful. But today I got a specific question for you. I opened the show drawing the relationship between the Marxist organization Black Lives Matter and the useful idiots that are joining with them and the resultant Jew hatred that's coming out. Now we're promoting this week because we have a big event. You're the featured speaker. Next Wednesday night, Spiritual Battle for America. It's going to be at the airport, Hilton in West Palm Beach. Jexit, Jews Exiting Democrat Party, Michelle Terrace and her team are putting it on. You are coming in to speak there. But I want you to address right now from a counterterrorism point of view, you were with the JTTF, on the insidious nature of Black Lives Movement and how the co-opting of these useful idiots, whether they're Jewish or Christian lefties, is resulting in a doctrine of Jew hatred integrated into the policies of Black Lives Matter movement.
Well, this has happened once before, but not to the magnitude it is now. I'm going to take you a little bit back in time. Back when Ronald Reagan was running for president, when he was a candidate for president of the United States, and way before that, when he actually worked for General Electric, he declared a single-man war on communists, on atheists, on anti-Semites, on socialists, and he went all across this country fighting them. When he became president, he sent the message to the American people that we were indeed at war with all of the individual organizations that I just described to you. But the problem he was facing was that although the American people were not convinced that we were at war with the Soviet communists, Soviet communists knew full well they were at war with us. So I bring you up now to this point in time in our lives. President Donald Trump is sending that same message and trying to get people to understand that, look, we're at war. This is no longer a traditional political fight between Republicans and Democrats. This is a war against anti-Semitism, a war against atheism, a war against communism and socialism. Now, how did the communists try to infiltrate into our society back in the Reagan time? Well, they're doing the same now. They're getting into the unions, they're getting into Hollywood, they're getting into our educational systems, and on and on and on. The one thing Ronald Reagan didn't have that President Trump has are organizations like Jexit. Jexit has led the way, truly led the way in fighting all of what I just described to you. So indeed, we have a lot of communists and socialists that have embedded themselves in every aspect of our lives, especially, keep in mind, colleges. We see who's marching. They're young people in their teens and 20s, have no idea what oppression is, have no idea what the Holocaust was all about, have no idea what persecution is all about. So these individuals have been sucked into the ideology of Marx, Lenin, and Stalin. But thank God again for the president, for organizations like Jexit, for our organization like Campaign for America, and frankly, thank God for people like you who are on the air educating a heck of a lot of people.
Yes, Steve, we found that 4 or 5 years ago, the United West, our organization, we've been around for about 15 years, and I've been doing this for 35 years. But 8, 9 years ago, you start exposing communism, Marxism, ingrained in the academy or in media, and people think, oh man, here we go, conspiracy theory. But we've been pounding it, others have been pounding it, and we think basic Americans, good old regular American people who don't get involved in all this geopolitical insanity, they're starting to truly understand. And do you recognize this? Do you see this? They're starting to understand there's really a movement that has Marxist roots that is burning and looting in streets around America. Do you think people are waking up to that this is a Marxist movement?
Well, I believe they are, because many of us are getting that scenario out. And let's put the conspiracy theory stuff to death right now. I've shared with people, you want to see if it's really a conspiracy theory, read the one document that'll prove it's not, and that's the Bible. You read that Bible from cover to cover, you're going to find that a lot of prophecy is being fulfilled. And this is why I was so thrilled when Michelle Terrace and Jexit labeled the meeting we have coming up in Florida a spiritual warfare. There is indeed a spiritual warfare going now over the skies of this country. And people right now who are listening to me, you're not hearing it from a preacher, a rabbi, or a priest. You're hearing it from a naval intelligence officer who knows full well that there is something spiritually involved in all of what's going on. And so the Marxists, the Leninists, and Stalinists, they're doing everything they could to remove God from our society, remove religion, worship of God from our society. And there's your first step in bringing to our country a socialist and communist government. Now, also, many people know this, it's no secret, that my wife was raised not under stars and stripes. She was raised under a hammer and sickle in Soviet Russia as a Jew. So she fully understands what is going on now in our country. And because of individuals, again, like whether it be my wife, who was raised in the Soviet Union, Michelle Terrace with Jexit and others, because of individuals like that who have the courage to stand up and to speak out, they are truly giving first-person experiences and narratives to people that would not understand. And I would tell you, my friend, you and I could talk, at least for myself, I go out and I make speeches all over the country, but there's nothing like an individual who walked in those shoes who can relay that message to people who have no clue. And they are the ones that really have changed lives. So yes, there's a God above, there's spiritual warfare going on, but we know the end of the story, don't you? We win.
We absolutely know the end. It's 9:22 in the morning on the 9th of September. Tom Trento, your host of the Trento Show. The title for what we're doing over the next 55 days, ladies and gentlemen, the title is The Spiritual Battle for America. Essentially a battle, as Steve is explaining, between good and evil. And the baseline from which we determine that which is good are the founding and documents of this country and the worldview that the individuals had, which was the Judeo-Christian worldview that formulated the basis for this country's success over 244 years. So when you hear people saying, we love America, but they hate everything that we stand for, they love the new America they want to make in the image of Karl Marx. And right now at, 9:24, I want to introduce some of our crew here. Susie Gold, you in there? Is she on with us?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, Eddie. Good morning, Tom.
I'm gonna ask Steve a question. Then I know you have a question for Steve. So after I ask him one, then I'll come to you. We got Mary up in another state managing the board, and J. Mark in the control room. You'll meet everybody, Steve, next Wednesday night, ladies and gentlemen. Go to the United West. There's a banner that says "Battle for America." Click on that, and you can sign up for the pro-Trump rally entitled "The Spiritual Battle for America," where Steve will be one of the featured speakers. Who else is? Roger Stone is going to be there. Laura's going to be there. Siggy Flicker is going to be there. A whole bunch of people. We got about 15 people, but Steve is one of the featured ones. Steve, you are working in some capacity with the Trump campaign. What is that capacity?
I'm on his National Campaign Advisory Board. I address all of the national security and law enforcement issues across the media outlets, and we have briefings every week, and we discuss some of the issues that we're going to be challenged with as we move forward. And as you are aware, one of the major issues right now is law and order across our country.
All right, Susie Gold has a question for you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Steve. So my question actually relates to our mission in terms of being the spiritual battle for America, and in addressing and reaching 1,000,001 Christians in Florida specifically. What message do you have for them so that they can courage to vote and out there? We know are conservative, but what message do you have to get them to get out there and make sure that they get to polling stations?
There are two messages. One, the power of prayer is very, very powerful. The power of prayer will never, never be diminished. So I tell them to pray, and I don't say that lightfully. I mean, the president, I've heard him say in the White House that we need to keep an attitude of prayer. We need to know that it was divine providence that gave us our liberties and our freedoms. So one, the power of prayer. But there's also scriptures that say that you must put your faith to work. So not just pray, but we must put our faith to work. And what do? We go out and we talk to people about where we're headed, where we want to be. We talk to them about praying as a family. You know, the old saying is the family that prays together stays together. But we do a little bit more than that. We go out, we encourage people to vote, to register to vote, and the biggest rally that we're going to have as the American people, we're going to have a lot of rallies between now and Election Day, but the most effective rally, the most effective march will be to the polls. You'll vote, and that's how we're going to change things in this country. But I can tell you this, that during the Republican National Convention in 2016, when I was there, what you did not see on television were thousands and thousands of people on their knees praying and reciting 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face and pray, I will heal their land. That's a promise from God, and he's going to keep that promise, and he's using the President of the United States and all of us, Susie, all of us, to be part of the fulfillment of that promise.
All right, hey, that's a great word. Steve, I got about 2 minutes with you. If when you leave, we're broadcasting in right down the street from Mar-a-Lago, and you never know, even though the president's not here right now. But if you get a phone call from the president, he goes, "Hey, Rogers, how do I solve this insanity in the streets of the cities in the United States of America? Give me a 3-part plan. What do I do, Rogers?" What are you going to tell him?
Part one, overwhelming force. You bring overwhelming numbers of law enforcement officers, federal, state, and local, to go in and to deal with the anarchists. That doesn't mean excessive force, as the mainstream media has tried to twist my words. It's overwhelming force. You need to have the police outnumber the anarchists. That's number one. Number two, begin to increase your intelligence and information capabilities, meaning that there must be a lot of intelligence gathering on those who are not only on the streets causing the chaos, but funding all of this, and indeed they are. And number three, as I said earlier, let's keep this attitude of prayer. Let's know that we're all accountable to God Almighty. You lead the way, Mr. President, and we'll follow.
Amen. All right. Lieutenant Steve Rogers, thank you for your time today. We'll see you next Wednesday night, the 16th, at Airport Hilton. We'll sit down and open a nice bottle of wine and celebrate a great rally that we have. How about that?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And it's been an honor and pleasure to be with you this morning.
All right, you take care. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Steve Rogers. He's doing great work. I mean, a guy who has given his life to public service, served for 30-something years in the United States Navy, retired as a lieutenant commander. He went on from there simultaneously, worked for the Nutley, New Jersey. It's a little suburb outside New Jersey, but that's a rough area. And worked there as a detective for 35 years, then worked with the JTTF, Joint Terrorism Task Force. And those are the integrated forces in various municipalities around the country where the FBI works with local law enforcement from an intelligence point of view and tries to get real-time, up-to-the-minute information on bad guys so that we can have a country that stands on the rule of law, which is being broken down in cities now all over the United States, but needs to be restored. So that's my question to you guys, to Mary, Mark, and Susie Gold. Before we bring Siggy in a little bit, Siggy Flicker's up next. What does that mean? Oh, her thing's not working?
No, nothing in here.
Okay. So that's not working, so I will ask myself the question. How about Mary? Can Mary respond? Mary, can you respond? You there?
What's the question, Tom?
Mary?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. For the audience, we have people all over the place producing this show. Mary, here's the situation. Let me have your insights. You've been with the United West a long time. You manage our media, our social media. You're aware of what's going on. Joe Biden is running commercials and saying that, and pointing to the rioters, saying, this is Donald Trump's America. And people are going, oh yeah, well, he's the president. Portland is burning. Therefore, it's the president's responsibility. You see anything wrong with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because it is not what he created. He is trying to get the Democrat cities, the Democrat-run cities and states to identify what the problem is and to fix it, but they won't. So how has it become his America when it's their states, their people that are running rampant through these restaurants? Oh my gosh, the restaurants that are just people out trying to have a nice evening dinner, and the rioters, and they're rioters, they're not protesters, because Biden can't even identify the difference between a protester and a rioter. And at the end of the day, they're all the same to him. And so to him, they're all protesters, and they're just trying to figure out, oh, I just need to make things right. I need to make things whole. And I'm so oppressed. Well, at the end of the day, this is what the Biden and the Democrats are doing. And they're not Democratic, they're Democrats.
Yeah, it's a mess. Well, let me ask our next guest, our special guest, Siggy Flicker. Siggy, how you doing today?
Tom, can you hear me?
Of course I hear you, yes.
Thank God you're back. I love you and I miss you.
Love you too. Great to see you. Hey, look, you have had a phenomenal career, both in media, Real Housewives of Joycey of New Jersey, and she's a Jersey girl. And you're now the spokesperson, national spokesperson for Jexit, Jews Exiting Democrat Party. I started out the show talking about Black Lives Matter as a Marxist organization, co-opting useful idiots, Jews and Christians, and that entity, that cabal, is going to destroy the country. Right. Your thoughts?
Well, Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Black lives. Hello? They're being trained by Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. Let's just talk facts. Let's put away all the BS and put it aside. This is not even a race, Democrat versus Republican. It's good versus evil. It's people who want to turn America into a swamp. And we are not going to allow it to happen. And why I'm so happy is because I was a former Democrat. I love the Democrat Party. I didn't know what the Republican Party is until I got in the know. Once you get in the know and you stand for the flag and the Constitution and Judeo-Christian values, and you don't want, socialism, globalism, anti-Semitism. I mean, the Democrat Party today, to my own people who are listening to this, they are giving a platform to Rashida Tlaib, to Ilhan Omar, to Farrakhan, to Linda Sarsour. You know, there's a famous saying that says, when people show you who they are, trust them the first time. And like Golda Meir used to say to my people, because I was born in Israel, I'm a legal immigrant, and I refuse to turn my back on the United States of America now. And Golda Meir used to say, if our enemies would only love their children more than they hate us. Well, my question, and what I want to say to the radical left is, and to all those people who can't stand Donald Trump because of his delivery, and we'll talk about that. If you would only love your children and your grandchildren more than you hate him. Now, you brought up a good point. Housewives of New Jersey. Housewives of New Jersey is a series that all is created upon false narratives. Why? Producers used to stop us in the middle of filming film and say, guys, no one wants to see 5 women getting along, right? So we had to create false narratives and keep that going for a year. We had a famous cake scene that was fake. And for months, people used to say, did you really get upset about the cake? Why are you so soggy? And I'm like, okay, the cake scene was fake, but we're doing this to entertain you. Today, the mainstream media is doing that for the Democrat Party. They are creating fake news and false narratives, and they keep on spinning everything that's not real. If you take a little bit of what happened and you create a whole show about it, there are going to be sheep out there that say, wow, did Donald Trump really say that? Oh my God. But the same people never had a problem with the presidents that had great delivery. Bill Clinton, great delivery. Tom, he could talk to the camera. Oh, and women used to melt, and men. And guess what? When the cameras were off, he went into the Oval Office and he did what he did to Monica Lewinsky and several other women. And Barack Obama, handsome and eloquent, right? Elegant man. He used to look at the camera and feed us a bunch of crock. And once the cameras were turned off, he packed on billions of dollars in the middle of the night on an airplane to send to our terrorists. Now, do the American people think that that terrorist really bought Dunkin' Donuts stock with that money? Or do you think that they use that for weapons to send our men and women back home in body bags? I mean, people need to wake up, and the time is now. Crucial to save this country.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing point. I want to develop that a little bit. It's 9:36 in the morning. Tom Trento, your host of Trento Show, Spiritual Battle for America. And today we're speaking with Siggy Flicker, an Israeli-American born in Israel. She's the national representative for Jexit, and Jexit is having a pro-Trump rally next Wednesday, September 16th. We want everyone to go to the United West, click on Battle for America, sign up. It's $10 to come, $20 to meet Siggy. She's one of the VIPs. For $20, you can hang out with Siggy for an hour, and that'll be great. You'll have a lot of fun. Siggy, here's the deal. You and I are having a conversation that requires a little bit of rationality, a little bit of seriousness. And when you laid out what you just did, the comparison between reality TV show and the media basically doing the same thing, and both of them influencing a certain number of people, I raised the question, and I'd like you to answer it. Is it too late? Are there too many people that don't deal logically, rationally, consistently in their thinking, but they're just driven by the false narratives that come out and they respond that way? Are there too many of them and too few of us? What do you think?
No, it's just because we've become a society that loves reality TV. Listen, at the end of the day, you want to go home and say, wow, my house, my life isn't that bad. Look at those idiots on TV. It's a way of just relaxing. And, you know, we all go, we have a stressful life, and we all want to release at the end of the day. But reality TV is not real. And right now, what happened is that they saw that successful formula, and now the mainstream media is using that formula. So it's not Americans' fault. Americans are woke. And more people in the last 6 months, I cannot believe how I'm so proud of this country, because more and more people are waking up. But people had a hard time saying no. Really? Like, I understand what reality TV, but it can't be that the mainstream media, including Fox, all mainstream media, they're trying to sell you something. They are trying to sell you, they want it for ratings. Ratings is very important in this industry. So it was very hard for Americans to wake up and say, wait a second, is this really happening? Now they see it's really happening. And it started in March with the COVID virus, the Wuhan, China virus. No one's even questioning, Tom, who bought this virus from that lab in Wuhan, China, and why. I mean, they wanted us to social distance, to mask up, to not go to funerals, to force our children to be homeschooled, while we have to pay for public education, to stop going to church and praying. But it's okay if we protest, if you loot, if you burn, if you steal, if you want to destroy a city. It doesn't apply to you. I mean, and to think how many people apply, how many people really are going out there and listening. It shows that we're good citizens. We want the best for this country. But at some point, you have to wake up, because, ladies and gentlemen, you must be able to look at evil in the eye and defeat it, or if you don't, it will manifest itself in your reality. And right now, if you have children and you have grandchildren, forget about you. It's not going to really affect your lives right now, which it is to a certain extent until November 4th, when the virus is gone and we don't have to anymore. Fight for your children and grandchildren. There is no socialist country that will come here to America and say, fight for socialism and communism. America is the greatest country in the world. And Tom, I went to the liberation of Auschwitz, 75th liberation of Auschwitz. I toured those concentration camps with my father. And I'm telling you, we don't burn down things. We keep them up. Why? For us to never forget. A nation that forgets its past has no future. For the Americans, for us to be burning down statues, then we should be learning from them. We should be learning from our history as to never repeat it.
No, excellent point. You're listening to Siggy Flicker on WWNN 1470 95.3, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Trento, your host. The spiritual battle for America. That's the mission we have over the next 55 days. That's a mission we have 8 days from today on the 16th. What is it? Today, Wednesday? No, 7 from today. 7 days from today, next Wednesday night at the West Palm Beach Airport Hilton. We have a 4-hour gala, pro-Trump, ready to mobilize people. Siggy is one of the featured speakers there. Siggy, and that's Siggy, Siggy, Siggy Flicker. Go look her up if you don't know her. Follow her on Instagram. Follow her on Twitter. An amazing woman. Siggy, I got about a minute left with you. You're Israeli-born, New Jersey raised, Democrat. You flipped. You left the Democrat Party. You're heading up an organization, Jack's their spokesperson, trying to motivate people to leave the Democrat Party. The nerve of you, Siggy. Why should people leave the Democrat Party?
Well, listen, it's very, very easy. First of all, New Jersey is not a Democrat state anymore. You're going to realize that the silent majority is very silent. I get between 500 and 1,000 DMs a day. Siggy, I can't speak now for fear of losing my job. Could you imagine? Wow. But I love the message. And I am also a Jew or a non-Jew. And by the way, thank you to the Christian people out there for standing up for the Jewish people in the state of Israel more than our own. You heard that. I said it.
Yep.
Thank you. Toda rabba lachem. Toda. Thank you for standing up. Honey, the Democrat Party is not the party of JFK anymore. It's okay to walk away. You come next Wednesday to our event. Or with like-minded people, and all we do is we love the flag. We stand for Judeo-Christian values. We look at each other and we hug each other. No, we're all alike. We're just patriotic people who love the president of the United States. And by the way, laugh now. He's going to go down as the greatest president in the history. Okay? No other president had 24/7 fake news media attacking him and was still able to accomplish all the things that Donald J. Trump has been able to accomplish in the last 4 years. And as of this morning, Nobel Peace Prize for my president, Donald J. Trump. You could come, wear a mask, or don't wear a mask. Come next Wednesday and be with like-minded people who love this amazing country. America is not the greatest country in the world for no reason. It's the greatest country in the world because we are the home of the free because of the brave. So let's show support. Let's show support. I'm getting all excited about this.
All right.
Let's show support for our president and this wonderful country that we live in.
All right, Siggy, thank you very, very much for spending some time with us this morning. If I don't see you, I'll see you Wednesday. We're going to have a great time, all right?
Sign up today.
Bye-bye. Siggy Flicker, ladies and gentlemen, 9:40 morning. Tom Trento, your host here. WWNN 1470. That's on the AM side. If you're driving around and the signal gets a little shaky, weather, or you're too far north, too far south, or you're out in the ocean, whatever, go to 95.3. You'll pick it up very, very well. If that doesn't work and you're under the interweb, all you got to do is go to iHeartRadio. You got to sign up. It's free. iHeartRadio. Once you sign up, you put in 1470 AM, and it'll go right to our station every day, 9 a.m., following Steve and Brian. Steve Kane, 400 years, I think, as a talk show host, 40 years, something like that. 40 years as a talk show host in South Florida. Steve used to be a radical leftist Democrat, and he saw the light, and he's a hardcore conservative. His partner in good crime, in good, what's John Lewis say? Good, bad, good company, something like that. I forget what it is. But Brian's doing tremendous work. Brian Craig, listen to them, please, every day, 6 a.m. to 9 o'clock, and then we pick up 9 to 10, and you got your day. You got so much information and motivation in those 4 hours. You can take on the world. But be sure to go to the.west.org and hit the donate button. We exist on donations, small, large, whatever. If you're a large donor and you don't want to go through credit cards and all of that, but you really want to help us in our mission to mobilize 1,000,001 new evangelical Christians to vote to win in this state in November, contact me, tuw@theunitedwest.org. tuw@theunitedwest.org. All right, we have another guest coming up in a minute here. Can anybody back there communicate? You can't communicate. That's okay. The big idea today, and a couple of our speakers from the rally dig down and analyze it for us, that when you have this Marxist movement, and everyone was afraid in the early days with the whole Black Lives nonsense to call these people out, everyone except us and a few others. As when we say Marxist, I mean, we're talking in the technical sense of followers of Marx trained in Marxism. Black Lives Matter is that, a Marxist organization trained in Marxist doctrine with a Marxist agenda to decentralize the nuclear family, a mother, father, a kid, break that up, bring in whatever they perceive as families, and that destroys the core of the social fabric, obviously. And once you break the bond of the social fabric of humans interacting with humans, you then go for the economic system that most justly and consistently provides the most for the most amount of people. No economic system is perfect. Capitalism is the best compared to any economic system ever tried in the annals of the history of the world. Black Lives has to destroy that and replace it with a, in their view, take from those who have, give to those who do not. So we got a lot going on. Do we have Jessee with us yet?
We do.
Jessee Jane, you with us? Jessee
Yes, I am.
Duff
How are
here
you? Good
in a-
morning.
She is with the Trump campaign, and we're going to get an update on what's going on with the Trump campaign. Amazing stuff yesterday here in Jupiter. The president landed at the airport, Palm Beach Airport, went up to the a little bit north to the lighthouse. There's a historic lighthouse in Jupiter on the Intercoastal, and crowds, hundreds, thousands of people for him as he signed legislation restricting oil development offshore, and it was a wonderful day. Then he went to North Carolina and had thousands and thousands of people at that. Jessee Jane Duff, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey, good morning. How are you today, Tom?
I see you, but I don't hear you, Jessee. You got to unmute yourself, I think. All right, Jessee.
I'm not muted.
There you go. We got you now.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, exciting days, isn't it?
Somebody had to unmute me.
There you go.
Yeah, everything's fabulous right now. The Trump campaign is very excited that we have invited Americans out there that are pushing for both states like California and going down the interstate in Portland. We're seeing places that often thought were just the liberal leftism that are basically biting at the seams for President Trump. Last night's rally, it was really exhilarating to hear the audience talk about "We love you," and they got into a unified chant with it in North Carolina. Everyone knows that this president has been battered consistently by the left beyond what any of us have ever seen in politics. We've always seen it get bad. I always used to feel sorry for President Bush when he got beat up by the left, but he wouldn't fight back. But we also didn't see any collusion to undermine his election. And here we are now, seeing the left show the most bitter and vile attacks against this president. And not only that, we've seen a direct undermining of him within the FBI, trying to investigate him. And now what do we have? It went on to the U.S. Postal Service, trying to suggest that he wasn't going to accept an election with their fraudulent ballots going out. I mean, it's nonstop all the way to Election Day, and I don't think it's going to stop even when he's reelected. We would be foolish to think that the left is going to try to destroy the legacy of this president. But meanwhile, this morning we all woke up to see that he's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. So, you know, the Democrats can shove that where the sun doesn't shine.
Yeah, absolutely. You're listening to Jessee Jane Duff. She's with Women for Trump, for the Trump campaign, Veterans for Trump. She's involved in these coalitions. She's a retired gunnery sergeant with the United States Marine Corps, so she knows of what she speaks. Jessee, if the president came to you, I asked this of Steve Rogers a little bit earlier, Lieutenant Steve Rogers, counterterrorism expert, all of that. If the president came to you and said, Jessee, you did some time with the jarheads. How do I solve these problems in the inner city, burning and looting and all that in these Democrat cities? What would be your basic advice to the president?
Well, it's not his responsibility to solve what the Democrats are doing in the cities that they were duly elected. Essentially, these Democrats are proving what they're worth. And Americans have to take note. It's the Democratic cities that had the rampant crime, the shootings, the outrageous riots, the burning, the destruction of their own cities. And we saw that. And it wasn't until the president continually offers to each and every mayor, including that in Portland, let me send in the National Guard. And we saw in Kenosha, when he sent in the National Guard, everything stopped, absolutely stopped. And Wisconsin took notice of that they didn't, I mean, the city had already been burned down in many places, and often those were black businesses. And the president has just had to consistently push at these mayors that you're causing your own destruction and refusing the help of the federal government is on you. I don't want to see the president take a action that could be deemed a dictator or could be deemed as overreach. There's a reason these mayors have to request more, the governors, I should say, have to request the president and or the support from the president, I should say, request support from the National Guard. The system is set up for the way it is. And if these states want to continually allow their cities to be destroyed, they're going to suffer at the polls. You know, out here in California, I happen to be staying at my parents' home out in California. Gavin Newsom's overreach has really essentially played out. You have business owners that probably were fairly liberal now realizing that they're in a state, the rest of the nation is up and running, and they're in a state where nail salons, hair salons still can't even be open except for Nancy Pelosi, of course. And the hypocrisy, people are realizing what they thought of Republicans is not true. President Trump saved the Republican Party, saved us from ourselves. He brought out what free enterprise means, what working Americans mean, and it means all people having the opportunity to work and be productive in this country. We haven't seen that with any president in the past. They placated the left, and this president has said, no, I'm not going to play your games. We're going to have a prosperous nation, and I know how to do it.
Yeah, that's a very important insight. The 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution gives state sovereignty, but it breaks our heart. But this is the way it's arranged. If people vote in these leaders and these leaders fail these people, then they're actually, you don't even have to wait till Election Day. There's ways to impeach governors and mayors and all of that, but the citizens seem to be either okay with it or they're moving to Florida or Texas, and we now sell a shirt here in Florida. It's a big flag of the state of Florida, and it says, "Do not New York my Florida," because the New Yorkers are moving to Florida. We don't want them messing up the state of Florida. So the president has to stay back because of the separation of powers, has to be the invitation, as you said. At some point, the Insurrection Act, maybe we'll talk about that another time. But I got about 30 seconds with you. What excitement is going on that you can share in the campaign with our folks here in Florida regarding, say, the next week?
I was that everybody needs to get engaged and get on board. The president tweeted out joining the Army for Trump. Go to his Twitter handle, because we need people who are going to watch these polls. We got to make sure that there's no fraudulent elections going. We need lawyers to volunteer for the RNC and work on the election polls. We have a lot going. We're getting under 50 days now. And what we really have to see in this next week is we're going to see the president out in multiple states, his children, such as Eric, and we're going to see Don Jr. out. Everyone is out. I'll be on the road this week. I'll be heading to Palm Beach, Florida, and I'll be heading back to Nevada. And I was just in Pittsburgh. We are all running as fast as we can. We can sleep on November 4th. Excellent.
When you're in Palm Beach, contact us. We'll bring in the studio.
That would be great.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Jessee Jane Duff, thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you regularly. We got a lot of work to do in the next 55 days. Thanks, Jess. We'll see you.
Thank you. Have a great day, motivators.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. I think that's it. We'll see you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Another great show coming up. Tom Trento, your host. WNN 1470 AM. Bye-bye.